Looking for a summer experience your child will never forget? Camp Paw Print and Camp Wildside at Dane County Humane Society offer unforgettable opportunities to learn, explore, and grow while having fun. Perfect for kids ages 7 to 12, Camp Paw Print features hands-on animal encounters, crafts, themed lessons, and more. For youth ages 12 to 15, Camp Wildside offers unique themes focused on wildlife exploration, nature adventures, and conservation activities. Make lasting memories with these one-of-a-kind camps. Spots fill quickly, so register today at giveshelter.org/education. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about.
Happy Friday, Madison. It's executive producer Haley Sperling here, filling in for your host, Bianca Martin. And I know it, you know it, we know it. It's time for the Friday News Roundup. We're digging into national stories making waves at home, spring election updates, and we're saying goodbye to a beloved UW institution. Joining me today to round up all this news is our newsletter editor, Rob Thomas. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Haley. How's it going?
Pretty good. The sun is out and I'm feeling it. And our producer extraordinaire, Jade Isiri Ramos. Hey, Jade.
Hi, Haley. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. Spring has sprung and we are feeling the vibes. I'm kicking things off this week and I'm on the transportation beat. First, I'm taking y'all to the airport where growing tensions at the federal level are having ripple effects at airport locations across the nation. Have you guys been keeping up with this saga?
Oh, yeah. It's a complete nightmare out there.
Yeah, I did some big traveling about a month ago now, and I am so happy to be home and not like looking at an airplane for a while.
Yeah, Jade,
or a TSA line.
You really got in and out at the right time. So I'm going to give some context here for what we're going to talk about. Major airports across the nation are experiencing record wait times and security lines as more than 480 transportation security officers have now quit due to the ongoing lack of funding for the Department of Homeland Security. And roughly 50,000 TSA agents are currently without pay. Some further context here, like I mentioned, DHS has gone without routine funding since mid-February as Democrats and Republicans are in a standoff over proposed changes to the Trump administration's immigration enforcement and essentially mass deportation operations following the killings of 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. We were all there for these stories and covering those here as well. There's really no easy way out of this, and the pressure is mounting for TSA, who have been forced into quote-unquote dire situations. At a House hearing earlier this week, the acting TSA administrator said that some agents are, quote, sleeping in their cars, selling blood and plasma, and taking on second jobs to make ends meet, unquote. And this is all while still securing our airports and trying to keep us safe in these traveling conditions. So it's been rough out there. Jade, I see you shaking your head. It's just a really bad situation.
It's like, I just think people should get paid when they're doing their job. Like, you know, that's sort of what it comes down to.
That's a bold concept.
Right?
Yeah.
In Madison, travelers haven't necessarily felt the same burdens as those flying out of major cities, Atlanta, Houston, like those are the places that are really getting caught up in the 4-hour security lines. But now Dane County leaders say they're preparing for potential disruptions or even a closure of the Dane County Regional Airport. I don't want this to become like a big red flag raising situation because county leaders very much have said, we have not been informed that we're closing down anytime soon. They are actively monitoring the situation. And for what it's worth, things at the Dane County Regional Airport are pretty much business as usual, but things could change because smaller airports are on the chopping block when it comes to getting DHS funding out there, when it comes to operations. So I've got a little moment of trivia here. Rob, I know you are our trivia master, having played with Bianca and Paul Guzzi a couple of weeks ago. So that inspired me. How many airports are in Wisconsin? And I'm going to give you a hint. It's a lot more than you would think.
I feel like the a lot more, like the a lot part really is getting me thinking. I was thinking like there's probably one in Green Bay, and then there's got to be like a couple regional airports like additionally. So I was going to say like 5.
Yeah, she says a lot more. I'm going to say 9.
87.
Okay.
What?
So Rob, I guess, is the winner there by Price is Right rules.
Yeah, right.
When it comes to hubs, we've got 2 small hubs, and that includes the Dane County Regional Airport, our beloved airport, and then the Appleton International Airport. And then we do have one quote unquote medium hubs, and that is General Mitchell International Airport out in Milwaukee. And then otherwise, we've got 14 regionals, 45 local airports, and then a smattering of others that are just kind of floating out around there. So like, wherever you are, there are more airports than you think. But yes, like I said, Dane County Regional Airport is classified as a small hub by the Federal Aviation Administration, aka the FAA. And an airport spokesperson recently told the Wisconsin State Journal that they are feeling optimistic that our airport would be spared should the feds decide to make closures. So fingers crossed for anyone out there like myself with upcoming travel plans. It might get better to drive. But that brings me to the second part of this transportation section, which is gas prices. Yeah, just cue the sad songs here.
Yeah.
In case you missed it, the average cost of gas is up. Way, 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 way up. Why? We're at war. I'm not going to dig into the complexities of war, but I'm going to give you some brief rundowns of gas. The average cost of a gallon of gas in Wisconsin has risen by 60 cents compared to a year ago. So that means that currently the state average for a gallon of unleaded is $3.63. Big yikes. Have you guys been feeling the pain at the pump recently? I know I have, and I'm having major regret not filling up when I saw that sign hit 309, and I was like, oh, it'll get better. It won't. It got worse.
Yeah, I put like $20 in my car yesterday because I was like, I just can't do more than this.
Yeah, I'm more thinking on the other end of like, do I need to go to Middleton today, or
Yes.
can I maybe bundle that trip in with another trip to kind of, save time on the road. So I'm trying to cut down on gas consumption a little bit.
And that's so fair. And Rob, I know you recently wrote a really helpful piece in the newsletter about how people can save on gas. Do you have any high-level tips that you want to share for the folks out there?
Well, I guess it's pretty common sense. I mean, we have a great bus transit system here, and you can go online and plan your route and find out where the buses are and know exactly where to get to the station. We have a great network of bike trails. It's getting nicer out if you want to commute somewhere. And then also I found out about this app called Gas Buddy, where you can look and see where the cheapest prices are in gas stations, all around Dane County. So if you're heading somewhere that's a little cheaper than where you are now, you might want to plan that one out. But there's no magic solution to this other than to not have a car or have an electric car, I guess.
Yeah, I know my bus pass is getting a lot of extra mileage these days, and we are going to keep chugging along in this Friday News Roundup, and our next stop is elections. But first, let's take a quick break.
Hi, CityCast listeners. This is David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, but I also have another job. I'm one of the hosts of the Political Gabfest, Slate's politics podcast. Every week, I get on mic with my co-hosts Emily Bazelon and John Dickerson, and we talk about politics and a lot more about other things that we care about. The Gabfest has been going for more than 20 years because the three of us love talking to each other, and we have an amazing community of listeners. If you like the open-hearted, curious way CityCast approaches cities, I think you'll like the Political Gabfest too. Stream it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast.
All right, we are back, and we're talking spring elections. Somehow, April 7th is right around the corner. Rob, what do we got to know?
Yeah, it's the spring election is 11 days away, and we were just talking about here at CityCast about how we're going to cover election night and how late we're going to stay up or how early we're going to get up to get those last minute results into the newsletter and the podcast. It's always exciting.
Keep the people informed. We got to bring you the most accurate, up-to-date information, which will require early mornings and late nights.
Will require coffee. Oh, yeah, either way. Yeah. So in-person absentee voting, which many people refer to as early voting, although it's actually a little different, started on Tuesday. And we'll put a link in the show notes to all the absentee voting locations so you'll know where to go. That runs through next Friday, April 3rd. And then there's no voting Saturday, April 4th through Monday, April 6th. And then election day is April 7th. So like I'm a day of election day, get your sticker kind of voter. What's your guys' kind of tradition or ritual when you go exercise your right to vote?
I like to go day of, though I have been in several conversations with people who are like, well, what if something happens to you like on April 4th and then you like can't vote on April 7th? If you would have voted during early voting, your vote would have still counted. And that's a good, that's something to think about. But I like to go day of and, go in the middle of the day if I can. I like to see all the other people who work from home going to vote or the retirees. There's a lot of retirees that I get to vote with when I vote at 2 p.m. on Tuesday.
That's a big scare tactic, I feel like, to get people into early voting. Like, what if something horrible happens to you in the period of time between early voting and election day, and then you can't vote? My goodness, I'm not thinking about that. I'm also a day of election voter. I like getting the sticker. I like seeing people out there. It's the only time that I go to a church ever. Not my religion, but that's cool. It's fun. I like seeing what number voter I am when I put it into the machine. It's something very satisfying about picking up the paper, filling out the little bubbles, getting it all scanned in and sent away. And I know I mentioned this in an earlier show, but I found out that I actually wasn't registered to vote when I went to vote in the primary not too long ago. And shout out to the poll workers there who helped me get my same day voting registration updated. So that's something too for folks to keep in mind, is that if you're not registered or if you're not sure you're registered, you can do it day of election. The people there will help you. It is not hard.
There's no excuse really not to vote. So however you do it, and perfectly valid to do in-person absentee voting now, get out there and do it. Probably at this point, I would not mail in my ballot just because it's, they usually say allow 10 days and we're right up against that. So,
you can take your absentee ballot to
a drop box or
the drop box. You can take it to your polling place or to your clerk's office.
Exactly. But I think the mail is you probably don't want to do that right now. And it's a big ballot this spring. The biggest race on the ballot this spring is an open seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which I'm not going to get into too much on this one because we have some exciting news that we're not going to have one. We're going to have both Supreme Court candidates, Maria Lazar and Chris Taylor, on the podcast coming up, which is very exciting.
Yeah, this will be the first time that both candidates have said yes. Usually we get one if we're lucky.
Yeah, so look forward to that. There's also a race for Dane County Circuit Court where Judge Ben Jones is defending his seat against challenger Huma Hassan, who runs an immigration law firm. And there are lots of races for Dane County Board and the Madison City Council. And I wrote up like an election guide for the CityCast Madison newsletter so you can see who's running in all those competitive races. But the one I wanted to talk about today are the races for the Madison School Board. And I think it's a feather in the cap for the city that like sometimes those county board races or their city council races are uncontested unless there's maybe an open seat. But it feels like the school board races are always competitive. Like more often than not, people are showing up, which is a sign of like how seriously we take education here in Madison. People care that much. So there are two school board races on the ballot April 7th. And in both cases, incumbent members on the board are defending their seats against newcomers who are pledging to bring fresh ideas and perspectives to the board. For seat 6, Blair Mosner-Feltham, a Sun Prairie school teacher seeking her second term, is up against Daniela Mole, who is an education researcher at the UW-Madison. At a recent Cap Times Candidates Forum at La Follette High School, Moser Feltham stressed her experience as the only school board member or candidate who is an active public school teacher. Mole also leaned on her experience, saying that as a UW-Madison researcher, she works with local school teachers on their professional development and also works with school districts across the country on advancing equity issues. And then for seat 7, Nikki Vandermeulen, who is a juvenile defense attorney, is seeking her 4th term on the board. And she is being challenged by Dana Calusi-Lind, who is an information technology manager. And again, at that candidates forum, Vandermeulen stressed her experience, saying her role on the board is being a voice for the voiceless, focusing on advocating for vulnerable students, particularly those with disabilities. And her goals for another term are focusing on effective special education services, improving academic achievement metrics, and instituting smaller class sizes. Calusi-Lind is a West High grad, and she wants to bring her business and tech experience to bear on the board, focusing on technological issues like artificial intelligence in the classroom and the debate over cell phones in class and screen times and things like that, which is a lot of people are talking about right now. So it's interesting. You have 4 candidates, and they're all pretty different backgrounds, but they're all saying that those backgrounds and those life experiences make them highly qualified to serve on the board. So it's pretty interesting. There are some areas of overlap between them on the candidates forum. They talked about what to do with declining state support for public education, which is something we've talked about on the podcast before, and how to deal with what's called salary compression, which is the veteran teachers not making that much more than the people at school who have less experience than them. But there were lots of disagreements, again, about the screen time I mentioned, and also how to close those student achievement gaps that have been such a problem in Madison for years. So have you guys been following the school board race that much? Did you watch the forum? Or
It's a race that I'm definitely interested in, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that you laid out all of these candidates so well, Rob, because like you said, they're not hugely unique in many ways, but they are all bringing very unique and specific backgrounds and saying this will be the best spot. And it is interesting, again, to see that we have 2 incumbents defending themselves in their seats. And I'm very curious to see what'll happen there. We're in a space right now where I feel like our school, and by extension, the school boards, are kind of just under this microscope of potential criticism.
Right.
One, because of the referendum that we voted on in recent years, giving the schools a lot more funding for both operations and these massive reconstruction projects that we're doing. And then not to mention investigative reporter Danielle Duclos of the Cap Times, who's reported on, allegations of teacher misconduct across Wisconsin and shining a light on this issue that has really not been seen before. And now we're seeing more instances of this pop up around the state and locally. So I think people are really just paying a little bit more attention. The school board is an access point of authority, of power, and of influence in the city because, what you bring to our kids, what you bring to our school system really does matter. So these are really critical races for us to be watching.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Haley. And I also think that it's interesting in Madison that we get to vote for every seat that's up versus just like the person who represents your neighborhood or your immediate community. And so you really have a lot of power when you go to the polls to sort of determine what the makeup of the district looks like until the next election.
Voting has power.
Yes. And speaking of democracy, there's another way you can exercise your democratic rights. This Saturday is the No Kings protest, right? The latest one, which will be in downtown Madison. These have been huge. I think this is the 3rd one, if I'm not mistaken, and they brought thousands of people downtown.
Yeah, folks are expected to gather at 12:30 p.m. Saturday at Brittingham Park and then march over to the Capitol for a rally at 2 p.m. So watch out for traffic, watch out for people. I know police are definitely keeping in mind and will be out and about. And so curious to see if people bring out good signs.
Yeah, I haven't seen any specific agendas for this one, but it'll be interesting to see if it's the same turnout as we saw in the colder months, or if maybe the spring weather brings more people out, or maybe more people have other stuff going on. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. We're going to keep moving on this here Friday News Roundup. But before we do that, let's take a quick break. And we are back. And Jade, you've got a little bit of sad news to share with us today.
Yeah, I have some sad spring news, which is that the UW Space Place is closing this spring. And if you're not familiar, which to be honest, I wasn't until this story, but the Space Place is an education and public outreach center for the UW-Madison Astronomy Department. They've operated a center in Madison since 1990. Originally, they were in an old Ponderosa Steakhouse building, which I'm kind of obsessed with. I have never been to a Ponderosa, but I spent a lot of time in the 90s and aughts at similar franchise steakhouses. So I love the idea of like space education happening like where a salad bar once was or like in a banquet room. Anyway, they moved to their current home in 2005 on Park Street at the Village. The Space Place has hosted space-related events such as lunar eclipse viewings and family science nights. And it was a place where schools could take field trips and where kids could learn about science and do space-based projects. And it was also the home to a handful of space exhibits and artifacts. Rob, I know that you have kids who grew up in Madison and went to school here. Did they ever go on field trips to Space Place?
I think they did. I've chaperoned a few field trips in my day, and I know we had never been to the Space Place, but we went to a place this really reminds me of, which is the UW Geology Museum, which is another just super cool university place to get people excited about science, right?
A gem, if you will.
A true gem. Yep.
Yeah. So it really seems like it's like a star for that sort of thing where it's like specifically kids getting to get excited about space, excited about science, and sort of light that fire under them, as well as being a, I think, relatively affordable field trip for schools. The Space Place has sort of been on pause for about a year since last spring when longtime Space Place director Jim Lattis and outreach specialist Kay Krewall both retired. It seems like they were the only two full-time employees of Space Place, and the university decided not to hire to fill those positions after they retired. And basically, programming has mostly been quiet, with the exception of some educational family events put on by grad students. And I'm sure you both remember last spring, we heard a lot about federal funding and grants being slashed for so many across the city, including UW researchers. So I'm not surprised that Jim and Kay's positions weren't filled.
This is what we lose when we lose federal funding. Like, this is tangible. This is devastating. And this is not only impacting people on campus, but it's impacting the entire community. Like you said, Jade, this was a space for field trips and for learning and for kids to foster that love of science. Like, this one's just like really sad to me, you know, because you talk about research labs closing and you kind of get the implication, but it is a step or two removed, right? Like, I maybe wasn't part of a research study or that hasn't impacted me. And even though I've never been to the Space Place, I never got to take a field trip there. I'm sad now for the groups of kids in the future who also won't get that opportunity.
No, I agree. And like the whole Wisconsin idea that the UW was one of their principles is not just to educate people on campus, but like to take that out into Wisconsin, to take that into communities, to reach other people and share that knowledge and get people interested and exciting about it. And yeah, it's just really sad. I know people will say, well, you know, a lot of that same information is online, but I mean, I'll tell you, for kids, there's nothing like seeing things, hearing from people, talking about it, you know, that tactile, physical thing is what really makes an impression.
It's not the same at all. It's literally so important. I mean, for me, I have never been a super science-y inclined gal, but my first professional internship was at NASA. And
That's right.
yeah, fun lore drop about me. I worked at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory out in Pasadena, California, and I led tours around that campus all the time, and seeing kids and seeing people like being able to touch and interact with the different type of foils that went up on the satellites, and the different type of materials that NASA scientists are literally innovating to make these huge leaps of technology happen. Like, that is where the connection happens for people. It's not the same online.
I also think there's just like something about the stars that is just like baked into like humanity, right? Like, I always look up, right? I go outside, the stars are out, I'm looking up, seeing if I can find a constellation I recognize, sort of regardless of like the light pollution in the area that I'm at.
Yeah, I always recognize the Orion's belt.
Yes.
That's the only one I know.
Haley, you're basically Ryan Gosling in Project Hail Mary to me. Yeah.
Something like that. Send me
Yeah.
to space. Actually, maybe don't.
Maybe not.
I'm fine here.
I want to put the federal funding cuts into perspective a little bit and just call out that it was announced in February that Madison's research programs lost $27 million in the last year from terminated or suspended grants. And last summer, Chancellor Mnuchin told departments that they would need to reduce their 2026 budget by 5 to 7%. So folks are really looking at a deficit right now. And I mean, that's sort of what happened with Space Place. They were the thing that the astronomy department could slash to make those cuts. So what's next for Space Place? They are figuring out what to do with the exhibits and the historical artifacts that are currently in the space. And they're holding 2 open houses before they close in June. So the first one is actually today, March 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the other one is April 4th from 11 to 3. And there's not any programming that's going to be happening, but the space will just be open if you want to go look and sort of check out the exhibits. And the Wisconsin State Journal reports that Department of Astronomy Chair Amy Barger said in a statement that while the Space Place will close at the end of June due to budget cuts, UW-Madison's effort to engage the community about space science and research will continue. I want to kind of call out a couple other places in Madison where you can still get your space fix. So MMSD has a planetarium. I don't know if you guys are familiar. I've been to a show like around Valentine's Day. It's very like date night astronomy show, which is very cool. There is also the Madison Astronomical Society, which they actually meet at Space Place. So they're currently looking for a new place to have their meetings and their lectures. But they do several public events every year, including their annual Moon over Monona Terrace event. If you're in the Fitchburg area, there's the Bell Burnell Observatory, which originally opened in 1882 on UW-Madison's campus as a student observatory. And in 1960, the building was moved to the current location in Fitchburg. And it is one of the oldest operational observatories in the U.S.
Well, to infinity and beyond, right? The space will still be there. Hopefully these other places will get a boost. I know the Valentine's Day event that you mentioned, Jade, and like everything that the school district does at their planetarium, super, super popular. I always see those events selling out. So maybe we'll have to do an event there someday. And shout out to Space Place. Shout out to everyone in Madison that is doing this type of work. And normally this would be the part of the show where we bring you our neighborhood shout outs, but we don't have any new ones to share right now. But I do have some things to shout out in general. We were super, super lucky to be able to gather in community with our CityCast Madison neighbors. Last week, we hosted a craft night at Imaginary Factory, and it was so fun. Rob, Jade, did you guys have a good time? Rob, are you wearing your friendship bracelet? Tell the people.
I need to find a friend who is worthy of my creation. My first ever friendship bracelet, which Haley, you taught me how to make. And, it's very personal. It's very distinctive. It's not like a friendship bracelet that's like, looks good or anything like that. But, it's from the heart, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's artistic and it's your
There you
first.
go.
Jade,
Yeah.
you also made some amazing crafts.
Yeah, I also made a friendship bracelet, which is also artistic. And I made a really cool origami deer, which I like showed off. It's like hanging on my wall now. But I had so much fun meeting folks and just sort of like, I love digging into a craft and being like, all right, I'm working on my thing, you're working on your thing, and let's sort of chat about our days and our interests. And it was really fun. I had a good time.
It's very fun to have a shared activity as
Yes.
opposed to just like a mixer. Everybody is sort of like making small talk when you're all working on your own thing, and makes it, a very easy flowing conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It was so fun. I was kind of floating around. I know Bianca was making some really pretty watercolors and chatting with folks who were doing collages, and folks were doing their own drawings and fiber arts. And it was really cool to connect with people in that way. Like I said, just be in community with each other and be able to build those connections for people. It was really exciting for me. And so shout out to everybody that came.
Can I shout out? I want to shout out the space, Imaginary Factory. It was such a cool space, and they host these craft nights every Thursday. So if what we're talking about sounds fun to you, Thursdays at Imaginary Factory, get your craft on.
We're already planning on our next members event, and we think it's going to be a real home run. Nod, nod, wink, wink. No more hints there. But if you want to get in on the fun, get the invites to these events, get the shout outs on the pod, all you have to do is become a CityCast Madison neighbor. It's $10 a month or $100 a year, and it's the best way to directly support the work that we do here, aside from listening to the podcast and reading the newsletter, which we absolutely love too. So if you want to learn more, become a neighbor, head to membership.citycast.fm, check it out, and you will get that invite to our next event.
And hey, neighbors, send in your shout outs. We need some. We need some to shout out.
Yes, please send us your shout outs. We love hearing from you guys. You're allowed to repeat them. We've definitely done that before. You're allowed to send in more than one. That's the fun thing about being a neighbor. No rules. All right. We've got one more story. I want to leave you with a piece of weird, maybe good news. I'm taking you guys back to the gas station. I promise we're going to have some fun. We're going to Quick Trip this time because they've got a new mascot. Its name is Red, and it's a giant chicken that wears a Quick Trip t-shirt. It's a red t-shirt. Have you guys seen Big Red?
Oh, yeah. He's 6 feet tall?
Big boy. Yeah, real big.
It's like, okay,
Red-
my question is, Red's a rooster, right? There's something, I don't know. I feel like when I picture a chicken, I don't picture a rooster. Maybe that's on me. Maybe that's my own misogyny.
When I think Quick Trip, I don't necessarily think giant red rooster or chicken, but someone did.
I do think fried chicken when I go to Quick Trip because they have good fried chicken. And have they told Red that they sell fried chicken at Quick Trip?
They don't
he
let
aware?
Red inside the store for his own good. Well, Red is going to be out and about at Quick Trips across the Midwest on a grand tour. He's got a stacked schedule, so we'll throw a link in our show notes if you want to catch this bird. But more interesting to me, did you guys know that Quick Trip actually had a mascot before Red came on the scene?
I had no clue.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, I'm going to break it down real quick for you. Its name was The Urge, and it's a cross between, I'm trying to describe it as best as I can. It's a cross between the bird from Up and a Furby, and it's just this weird creature. Like, it's not anything that exists naturally in our world. It is an unholy figure, and I honestly love it. It is purple and yellow, and it's got eyes on a thing that looks like it should be a mouth. And the vintage sellers out there right now are going crazy selling these types of plushy things. There's one listed right now. Insanely rare vintage 80s Urge mascot Quick Trip plush stuffed animal selling online for $300. So
I'm looking at the Urge online right now. That thing is terrifying. Its mouth is huge.
But that's the face. Like, I don't know if that's the mouth or the face. We're going to have to put a photo of this on our Instagram and let people sound off because I don't know what I'm looking at.
I think it's a big open bird mouth.
But the eyes are in there.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm so scared.
Well, this thing will haunt your dreams and your nightmares. I hope no one's out here spending $300 on that, but if it suits you, go off.
I want the urge to come to my next birthday party, please.
Should we have the urge come to our next member event?
Yes.
Please don't feel the urge.
Well, best of luck to Red and anyone heading to Quick Trip or any gas station this week. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And thank you to Rob and Jade for rounding up the news with me. This has been so much fun. Jade Isiri Ramos, thank you so much.
Thank you, Haley.
Rob Thomas, thank you.
Thank you, Haley, and thank you to the urge.
Thank you.
R.I.P.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm executive producer Haley Sperling, filling in for your host Bianca Martin. We're produced by Jade Isiri Ramos, with help this week from roving producer Matthew Rogers. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Additional music by Kid Magic and DM from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. Rob Thomas is our newsletter editor. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to the CityCast Madison newsletter. And don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor. Just head to membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who's got the urge? Alrighty, we will see you back here Monday morning with more news from around the city. Until then, take good care. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend. It's such a little freak. Like, I love it. I want it.